Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
It's like, I don't make that much money. Do the math. Just stop and do the math and say, if you made $50,000 for over a year for 40 years, I know taxes and benefits and all the other stuff come out of it over time, which just needs to happen. But how much cash money flowed through you, the machine?
I want to invite you into the Business Network, my free school community for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to grow their network and scale their business. Inside, you'll get step-by-step lessons, monthly workshops, feedback, scripts, resources, bonuses, and a community of like-minded people who believe in helping each other win. Join us today at school.com/thebusinessnetwork and click Join Group. I'll see you inside.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and fired up for you to join us today. We're going to talk about money again, but how to architect your money. My guest has a beautiful way, calls himself the financial architect. I love it. My dad was a contractor for 40 years, a really good one. Architects were his foundation of everything that he built. It's the same thing with your money. And, you know, we'll bring faith in the servant's heart into that because we know money can be a little crazy. But before we start, let's do our gratitude for today. And that is, you're an awesome inspiration to those lucky enough to know you. Wow. Get to know people, as I talk about all the time. Build your network. Get to know people. You're not going to connect with everybody, but the people you do connect with, they can help you just ride that wave of success that's so powerful. So with that being said, let's bring our guest on. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me. That's a great start. I love that. You know, it rings very near and dear, and just another validation of, like, if you put the faith in where it should be, great things will happen.
Well, that was a God moment right there. I mean, I pulled,
for sure.
It's a random card I pull out, and you're the guest. It's beautiful. And let's dive into this, because faith and money is an unusual combination. It's not something talked about a lot. Why did you bring those two together?
Well, add in business owners. You know, with business owners, money, that third layer of being a business owner and trying to go create your own path, right? It has a lot of challenges when it comes to money, and a lot of stresses that it adds to the mix. Because one, we forget that the business, whatever the business generates, isn't our money, right? We might have to go produce the money. We have to go hunt and harvest, but it's not our money. It's the Ramona development partner's money, right? The human SEO's money. You get a portion of that down the road, right? And money is also just a topic that we have so many different friction points around, and do we have conversations or not have conversations around money? And when you mix money and business together, it's almost like it can very much appear like water and oil. And we have to have so much, just as I heard at my church a couple of weeks ago, we had a guest pastor come up and he said, you know what, if you're going to do something, even if you don't know what the hell you're doing, the Lord just says, do it afraid. And know that it's going to work out, right? You just got to jump and do it, and just do it afraid, right? And when you jump into business, you're jumping into a pond, a pool, sometimes a lake or an ocean that becomes a lot bigger than just a podcast or a financial architect or contract, construction work or whatever. You did that to generate money. And you didn't realize all the back end stuff that comes with it. And then you realize, oh, by the way, the money train and the business train don't run on the same tracks. As I was having a conversation with my wife the other day. And so it takes a ton of faith to just stay disciplined, to just continue to wake up every single day and do it afraid, have random conversations with complete strangers and friends and family and loved ones that you have, that you've probably flipped the script and jumped into a different world that they don't know you from because or about because they don't know you, right? They know you from a perspective of a box. They don't do deep research to say, hey, who is Steve, right? They know Steve does X. They have no idea Steve moonlighted in a hobby of X, Y, Z down the road. And all of a sudden, Flippin was like, yeah, I'm going to jump into this thing. They're like, when did you learn that? Versus they just assume that's not something we can do. And we can't put on new clothes and do new things and learn new tasks. And so I think that's where faith comes into this thing. And we just have to take a step back and understand, like it says so many times in the Bible, right? Of money is just a tool and a blessing, and we just got to use it as a tool. You know, the famous quote, give a slice and you get a loaf.
Beautiful.
You just don't know when you're getting the loaf, right? And I think so many business owners fail in business in the first handful of years because we jump in expecting to we're making all the profit and all the revenue, and then it's going to happen overnight. And that it doesn't take time, and that if there's a process to the thing, you're going to be overworked and grossly underpaid, probably broke for the first couple of years. But once you get the momentum and you stay on the track and you continue to do things afraid and jump in because you believe in what you're doing is moving mountains and creating impact, it will come to fruition. Just like in life, we just don't have the game plan of when it's going to happen, right? And we want to have so much control of that. And when you're a business owner, we love we're a business owner because we want control.
Yep. And we search for that, and it's not always there. And you're right, living afraid, I'm paraphrasing what the pastor said, because being afraid and fear are big in the world right now. With everything that's going on, we're not going to dive into that, but people are more fearful. They're more afraid now. But living that is so powerful. So let's talk about stress with money and how faith intertwines with that to lower the stress.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, stress with money could be, do we have enough to pay the bills every day? Mm-hmm. Right? Which I don't care how much money the person makes. We oftentimes don't want to push ourselves to learn a little bit more or peek under the hood and investigate all the mistakes, right, that we've made. And it's a heck of a lot easier to be an ostrich and put our head in the sand and just think everything's okay, because it's not generations ago where they balanced checkbooks constantly, right? They had to manage the money, and it took days before the money was transferred from one account to whatever they were buying, or it was in cash, and they saw the money dwindle from their $100 to $50 and 220s and a 10, and 5. And then all of a sudden that starts to dwindle. So that changes and puts some constraints on our need and desire to spend. We don't have that anymore because of digital technology, which is great, but we also are using that as an excuse to say we can never get ahead with our money. And I think all that really tells us is we just don't want to challenge ourselves to say, hey, maybe we can create a different cash flow system to where we can actually capture the surplus of $10 a month or $100 a month or whatever it is. Majority of people have a surplus of X, but it falls in the same bucket as their spending money. And it evaporates like water over time because it's not trapped in its own container. Yeah, and so I think the stress is we just fear having the conversation because we were told, hey, don't ask mom and dad how much money we made, or how did we make this trip happen here or there, or how did we end up buying these things, right? And at the end of the day, the downside of that is we're riddling ourselves and our communities with this fear that money conversations or money is bad. And all that does create is just more problems and fearful problems of saying, hey, you're going to have all these problems down the road with money because money's evil. Money isn't evil. It's a tool, right? It's maybe never been monetary all the time, but there's always been money transactions for in all of time, right? It's been trading things before the dollar was invented.
Just a tool. And I love that. You don't use a hammer on a screwdriver, on a screw. You use a screwdriver. You use the right tool for the right situation.
Well, I think to that point too, right? It's interesting because I've had a friend of mine challenge me a couple of times, and because he thinks that when I say money's just a tool, he's paraphrasing and say, well, you're kind of devaluing. It's a pretty powerful tool. And I said, is it more powerful than anything else? And I think we've created this perception that it is more powerful. Like when we are in money challenges, if we can figure out having an open conversation and a transparent conversation in an objective space, we can probably make arrangements, and they do make arrangements for us to navigate our way through the mistake that we put ourselves in to get out of it. The challenge is we don't know who to trust because we don't connect deep enough with those people to say, hey, Steve, I got a problem, man. Like I just flat out stink with money. And you may not be a financial person, but if we know each other enough, like that's a conversation, like you're going to walk into that conversation and say, hey, lay it here, and whatever you say, like not spreading it anywhere else, but maybe we can together identify a couple different minor tweaks you can make to get your situation better.
Yep. And people are hurting for money, or I don't like the word broke. You're not doing it right. If you're doing something and it's not working, you're not doing it right.
No.
And I forget what Freud said, doing the same thing over and over again is whatever the word, your audience, you know what that is.
Yeah.
And I like the word abundance because now I have a lot of abundance because that could be money, it could be time, it could be network. Mm-hmm. Money seems to be that, you mentioned money. It's like, oh, don't talk about how much you make it. We'll talk about how little you have, like you said earlier. But I want to dive into financial architect, how that came about. Why do you call yourself that?
Yeah. So it came about when I took a step back from a previous career I was in. It was a financial advisor, and I was doing a lot of putting in place the what's, as I call it, or the ingredients, right? The investment accounts, the insurances, and helping, trying to coach people on, hey, you can spend less by just spending less and capturing the surplus, you're going to build wealth, right? But the problem was we were coaching the wrong way, right? We were talking about spending less. So now that's becoming subjective, not objective, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're always wanting to push people into doing things, the friction is just, well, where's the money? And because we don't have to openly share where all of our cash flow or our outflow, inflows and outflows go, like the client's sitting there saying, I don't have the money, and you're telling me I need to do these things to get to this position. Help me find the money, right? And for me, it was always a struggle, and I was always getting friction, and it was always a challenge of banging my head against the glass door of like getting people to take actions. And I just realized I was in the wrong seat in the financial world. And then I was always intrigued with strategies. And so I did a lot more deep diving into like, what do the ultra wealthy do? Like, how did they get to where they are? And what I realized is they looked at the whole picture. They understood, they had people on their team, and they were transparent to find people that helped them do things, right? They knew they knew enough to be dangerous, but pushed everything to someone else, but were still very keen on what they heard. And they realized that strategy was important. And what I realized in the financial advisor space is we did planning, right? A lot of financial advisors do planning, and they do great work. But oftentimes when it comes to money, everything's so focused on the numbers that the tools, the fundamental structures are the secondary thing, and the structures need to be the fundamental thing, not the second, and the numbers need to be the secondary thing, and numbers get confusing for people. And so then I stepped back, and I just had the opportunity to do some learn how to become a certified tax advisor, and learn that by being that, I can be knowledgeable enough in a lot of arenas to be very overarching, agnostic, and clear, and educate on the goods and bads of all things, and say, hey, do you know that how these moving parts in your head, because most people are struggle with invisible, which I think is a thing with faith. We struggle with belief in God because is it real? I don't see it in the flesh, right? How do I say
Yeah.
money is difficult? Anything, hey, just Joe jump. It's like, well, I don't know what's on the other side of that jump. It's like you just got to jump, right? Money's the same thing. Everything's up here in the same bowl, mixing bowl with everything else in our life, and people need clarity and they need visuals to understand, to create that clarity. And so I learned I could become a financial architect and help them take all their ingredients, the what's, and understand how they actually function together,
Mhm.
which then helps them to understand why, help them make more intentional decisions on a why before they jump and make the what. Because we hear so much, especially now with social media and technology, of all the sizzles, right? We get to say, hey, jump into this and do this, or be an S corp, or do whatever. It's like we have no context as to why, other than the very little bit of research that we're going to do when we hear that 1 minute Instagram or whatever 30-second Instagram thing. It's like, that sounds like a great idea. That's talking to me. It's like, yeah, that's designed to talk to you, but like, how does that align with the ecosystem that you've built, and how's it going to align with the ecosystem you're going to continue to create? And there's no communication between any of those professionals and a regular consistency to help make sure that what we're doing aligns in all the different arenas. And so I've created the ability to become a financial architect where I could make sure clients understand before they jump what they do have, just from the fundamental tool in place, and how those things operate together, and then what are the things that they need to consider doing to make sure that it works seamlessly moving forward. And now they can step back and say, well, maybe I need to do this investment account, but establishing a trust is more important, because life can happen yesterday. And if I don't have a safe place for where all the blessings we've created built, there's one pre-built for me, but it's likely not going to be to the vision that I had planned. And now there's no one telling them they have to do it. They're identifying on their own the things that they need to be doing in their space.
You're a smart guy, and it's a powerful message. I don't know if you're saying this, understanding this, but when you say money's invisible, nowadays it's even more invisible. We don't have checks anymore.
Absolutely.
By the way, you young audience out there, it's a piece of paper we used to sign to get money or pay bills. Those are pretty much gone. And bills are going away. I mean, the penny's no longer being,
Coins are becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, irrelevant.
Paper dollars are becoming irrelevant.
And that's what's making it harder, because now we don't even see money. We just look at a screen and go.
Well, it begs the question, Steve. Does the money actually physically show up in a bank account? Like, if we were to walk to the bank today, and if I have $5, like, could they open my bank account? Like the vault where that money is, could they open a vault to, like, immediately and say, hey, here's your pile of cash?
They can't do that, because they've got millions of dollars. They wouldn't hold $500 million in a vault. It's all online. Yeah, virtual. Very cool.
So it begs the question of, like, do you actually physically receive the capital? No.
It's on a phone, it's on a tablet, a computer.
Right. Now, your house, a building, you physically receive the property because it's real asset, right? You have it. Silver, real asset, right? Yep. And so, like, that's the challenge. To your point, that's the challenge with money. It's an invisible thing that just flows through us, right? And oftentimes we forget that we are a machine, and we have money flowing through us all the time, and we devalue our worth because we make 30 grand or 50 grand or 100 grand. It's like, I don't make that much money. Do the math. Just stop and do the math and say, if you made $50,000 for over a year for 40 years, I know taxes and benefits and all the other stuff come out of it over time, which just needs to happen. But how much cash money flowed through you, the machine? Wow. And yet most people in the arena of retirement right now sit on somewhere between $250,000 and $400,000 in retirement accounts. and it's going to get worse. They have the safety net of pensions and Social Security still sitting around.
Yeah.
That younger generations, myself, don't have those luxury as the luxuries of that, right? And you think about it, it's like, man, that's a lot of cash that just that flowed through you over 4 decades. Where did it go?
Somebody's hands, not yours.
What if we actually captured it before it left our hands? And we can do that, right? But we just want to put our head in the sand and not have, woe is me, and not be stewards,
Yeah.
right? And if we look at faith, it's a relationship that requires our attention. Yep. He requires and challenges us to be a steward in our partnership with him. It requires us to be a steward with our tools and our blessings of whatever that is we have, whether it's our intellect, whether it's our communication, whether it's money, whether it's our time. Like, we have to be stewards of those things.
Yeah, it's powerful what you're saying here. Money is, it's something that you teach people, because what you don't know, you don't know. You come in and go, I'm going to let you know, Steve. Here's some things. And that's what I love, the architect part of what you're doing. So let's end this show with a great question. We're talking money and how smart you are, and your faith is a big part of your life. I'm going to ask you a personal question. Not personal like your Social Security number, but we're going to go out to where you live. I'm going to reserve a table at a restaurant. You'll bring your family if you want. Yeah. But I want you to invite 3 people who've been influential in your life, whether dead or alive. And for the second part, what food would you order for the table? Because I'm a foodie, and I'd love to know what you'd order.
Man, that's tough, because like, you put a limit on number of people. Like, there's a lot of people that
just
need
whatever pops in your head. Just whatever pops up.
Yeah, no. So I would say we're probably going for tacos.
Okay. Game changer.
And Mexican style tacos, authentic tacos, right? Cilantro, onion, like, give me all the opportunities that you can have in that space. 3 people that I would have, I'm gonna put 2 in the same seat, so I'm cheating a little bit.
It's all right. Your table.
But it would be a cardiologist and my pediatrician when I was born. It'd be my mom. And then it'd be my kids. And the reason for those 3 is, 1, the pediatrician provided my parents a deep amount of faith and belief that a kid born with an open, a hole in his heart at, birth in the 80s, when there's not a lot of information or technology to navigate that, and he had to stay in a hospital for 2 years. That life would be okay, and he'd be here 40 some years later. He instilled the belief in my parents to just trust the process, and that he was going to be the steward that was going to, him and his team, that were going to make those things possible, right? My mom, because she's always been in my corner, and so, like, I don't know that I would ever I would greatly miss those opportunities to having conversations and learning from her. And she was a single mom and raised 2 kids on her own for the most part, and has been a great cheerleader, probably sometimes too much of a cheerleader, right? And not as much of a, hey, here's a truthful, transparent person, like, get your shit together sometimes, right? Which we all need. And then kids, because if I'm faith-based, which I am, I believe my purpose in life is to raise really good disciples. So we can extend our impact generationally from, grandparents a long time ago to them and future generations. They have to be at the table, and see and witness opportunities from multi-generations, right? And having questions. And so being able to have a scale of that depth, I think, one would fulfill the heart pretty full.
The powerful answer. I love that. Definitely family's a big part with your faith. Thank you again Nick, for taking the time to be on the show, being an incredible guest. I know people listening want to connect with you. How can they do that?
Yeah. So they can connect Nick at SAN727consulting.com. So SAN727consulting.com. And my phone number is 765-414-0092. Also on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. most of those are my personal name, I believe. I don't always remember my Instagram handle, but yeah, in the normal spaces anymore.
Yeah, your team gave me your links, so I'll put those in the description, audience, so you can reach out and connect with them and learn more about his architecture. How about how he could build your money house? That's what I'm thinking, is build your house with money and being happy. Because when you have abundance, you are happy, and it makes life different. Audience, subscribe to YouTube channels. I love YouTube, whether it's Doing Business Servants Heart or any other, because today's podcast, Nick could be a gift to somebody. Somebody's hurting with money and they listen to Nick for 10 minutes and it impacts them. You just gifted them with something. I think one of the best gifts you can do, which is impacting and changing somebody's life. So with that being said, me and Nick want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a wonderful day, everybody. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.